Hi, in today's video I'm going to be talking about how to reduce persistent absence using one-to-one intervention of coaching. So I'm Liz Robson, CEO and founder of Worth It. So we specialise in coaching for young people and students to reduce the impact of mental health problems and improve mental well-being. So one of the major issues that's happening in schools right now is emotional based school avoidance, or EBSA, and persistent absence. So 500,000 young people are persistently absent from education at the moment. And what we know with the Children's Wellbeing Bill that's coming, policy that is going to be developed from that persistent absence is going to be a significant thing that schools are going to be challenged to improve. And it isn't a matter of just make them come in. It's a matter of understand and like all this whole stick and carrot mentality of like just find the parents and that'll work. No, it won't work, because it's a complex dynamic system of push and pull factors and psychological barriers and practical tangible changes that need to be made by the whole school environment as well, that are preventing many children and young people accessing education. And some of it's to do with special educational needs and sensory processing, some of it's to do with anxiety, some of it's to do with multiple family factors and different things that are impacting them and their ability to be present in school. And it's not just about being at school, because EBSA also refers to young people who might be wandering the corridors, missing out on certain lessons, hiding in the toilets, going missing, but they're still, registered on the school register. So it's not just about those that don't physically get into the building, it's about when they're in the building, are they in the right place where they should be, and are they learning, more importantly. So just to clarify some definitions before we move on to talk about how coaching can help. EBSA occurs when stress exceeds support, when risks are greater than resilience, and when pull factors that promote school non-attendance overcome push factors that encourage attendance. So they're being pulled to home psychologically, and they don't have enough push or things that make them want to be in school. And it's like this balance goes out of whack. And if you've ever heard me talk about the JDR model and staff wellbeing, it's very similar concept. So what we have to do is reduce the pull factors and increase the push factors to bring them into balance. Now, each individual child or young person is going to have a range of different complex and dynamic individualized factors. So one size fits all approach is not going to work. Sanctioning is not going to work. Incentives might work for some, might not work for others. Promising them if they go every day that they get an iPad might work for some, might not work for others. These kind of things. So each child is an individual, and each young person or child needs their own personalised way of navigating themselves back to school. And that's where coaching can really help, because it can work on a one-to-one basis and really help the young person identify what their own personal psychological barriers are, what the emotional impact of that is, and then help them with an action plan that's motivating for them, that they want to achieve, that has baby steps in it, that helps move them forward towards their goal. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the 4 functions of emotionally based school avoidance. Like, why do they do it? Like, what does it give them? Based on the literature. So this is what the research has found. I have to consult the notes. So function 1 is that to avoid uncomfortable feelings brought about by attending school. So being at school makes me feel bad. I hate the way it feels. I don't want to feel the feeling. So I'm avoiding feeling the feeling more than I'm avoiding school. That can then interplay with stressors. So the school makes me feel stressed, either perceived stressors. So it's the way I think about things. I'm frightened I'm going to get a detention. Everyone's really strict at school, and I find them frightening. I'm worried that I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to look stupid if I put my hand up. I've not been in for so long, so I'm so behind. How am I ever going to catch up? Like, all in the unconscious mind of the young person or the child this is going on. So academic pressures, peer support, like not having a friendship group, or your friends have fallen out with you. Or I worked with a girl a long time ago. So I've been working with young people a lot around academic avoidance and university students, and also in secondary schools. And it sort of became a bit of a speciality for a while when I was doing like a lot of one-to-one coaching. And one girl that I was working with had never been bullied and all her friends were lovely, but she had this fear that she was going to be bullied. So it was that fear that she might be bullied that actually prevented her from going to school, even though she was never bullied. And her friendship group was actually quite positive and supportive. And then there was also a load of stuff around sleep hygiene that we had to do because she was staying up late, like on her phone and stuff like that. So we talked about like reading. So it's like a complex. So even identifying that this was an irrational worry thought and there was no evidence for the fact that she was going to be bullied, she still was terrified that she might get bullied and she wouldn't be able to cope with it. So we did a load of coaching around, like, what would the worst thing that would happen if you did get bullied, and what would you do if that did happen, and how likely is it, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel that you're going to use those strategies in that scenario. So even just getting it out of her head, it starts to lose power over it. And she was like 14, I think she was year 9, year 8, year 9, year 8, year 9. They always struggle, they really have a tough time. Function 3, to reduce separation anxiety gained from significant others. So being away from the parent or the caregiver or the young might cause the young person to be pulled to home. They don't want to be away from the family environment, from the home, from the caregivers. And also function 4 is to pursue tangible reinforcing activities. So at home, I get to do what I like. I have time to myself. I can watch telly. I can play on my PlayStation. I can go on my phone all day faffing around. I can read books. I'm at home in my nice, comfy, safe place. I don't have to wear this itchy, uncomfortable, horrible uniform. All that is not as loud, it's quieter. My dog's here, my cat's here. Anything like that. Each individual young person is going to have their own configuration of these factors, and helping the young person identify what are the things that are pulling them, and how do we then increase the factors. I don't actually like them. I don't really like this push-pull terminology. Actually, I don't think it's particularly helpful because it's kind of a bit stick and carrotish. So I think I'm going to say, what are the factors in the motivating factors that are going to move them towards school and keep, reduce them from being at home? And what are the barriers that are preventing them from moving forward? So how coaching works is it's usually a one-to-one intervention. You could do a small group program as well. So you've got a bunch of young people, and it could be a way of developing peer-to-peer relationships, that they actually do a small group, just a handful of 3 or 4. Depends on if they're going to talk or if it's going to make it worse. You've got to really know your young people to be able to understand if it's the right intervention. But small group coaching could also be useful, or you could do a group of one-to-one sessions, like a program of one-to-one sessions that transition into a small group coaching program. So you coach them into coming to the small group coaching program, and then you coach them into attending school. So what can happen with approaches to EBSA and persistent absent is we can do a lot to the young person, and we can be telling them, well, you need, and we can just go into problem fixing mode. Oh my God, they're not coming in. The school's under a lot of pressure to sort it out. And what do we need to do? Well, we need to do something practical. What's the kind of practical thing we can do? We can put them on a reduced timetable. We can give them timeout cards so they can go out. We can teach them self-regulation strategies. But what if the young person doesn't care about any of those things, and they're not relevant to their needs, but we've not actually sat down and asked them what's going on? Like, what's stopping you from coming in? How can I help you? How can I understand you? How can we look at these barriers one by one? I coached a young person that had not been into school since he was 12, and he was 18 when I met him. He was actually bullied quite severely, and I actually worked with him on like a welfare to work contract to help him with long-term employability, and we did loads of stuff around body language and self-perception and practicing confident walking and going new places on his own and loads of stuff like that. So you kind of really got to understand what's going on in the young person's world, because they don't even know themselves. All they know is they feel this terrible, horrible feeling, which they can't understand because they don't have the emotional literacy for it or the vocabulary to describe it. So they shut down and what's more attractive is time with parents or time at home or their comfort zone, or the things they're used to doing. And just because they might not have a very pleasant home environment, but because it's their comfort zone, because they're used to it, it's more familiar, it feels safer. So it might not be that nice, but it's psychologically safe for them. It's what they're used to. So anything that's changing all the time, like school's changing all the time, you never know exactly what's going to happen. It's just too much. And it's not just young people with special educational needs, although many young people with EBSA have got autism or ADHD or both and struggle with the sensory side of school. But we can jump to conclusions about what they need too without asking them. So what coaching does is it's a one-to-one process where we develop a relationship with the young person, where they feel seen, heard and understood, where we're using active listening to really hear what they're saying, and not just the words that they say, but their body language, the way they relax, like the energy you get from them. So you can really start to understand like what is going on and what is preventing you from accessing school and coming in. And we have to listen. We can't go in the I know what's the matter adult fixing mode, because that worked for so and so and that worked for so and so, it's bound to work for this young person, then it doesn't work and you're stumped. So each individual young person you work with individually, and you ask them and you hear what you're saying, and you build this safe relationship. And that might take time for you to build that relationship of rapport and trust and safety, so they can start to open up to you and start to feel heard and start to like understand their feelings that are preventing them from coming into school, and what's causing the feelings, and what is the feeling and what's underneath it, and then what are you thinking that's causing the feeling, and how can we change those thoughts though to more helpful thoughts. So you build the relationship with the young person, and then you learn a load of tools and strategies to then navigate those barriers. So to do that, you need to do my coach training course, where I will teach you all the different strategies that develop resilience. So often in work with EBSA, it's about increasing resilience resources within the child or young person to help them engage in school. And resilience can include optimistic thinking, flexible adaptable thinking, problem solving skills, confidence, ability to experience positive emotions, emotional literacy, like learning their own regulating strategies, so that, and knowing when to use them. So what the idea of coaching is that we help young people build up a whole repertoire of resources within themselves that they know how to draw upon when they need to do it. So you might be able to get them in, but then you're creating dependency where every 5 minutes they're coming to see you to check, you know, for reassurance. And that's not really helping them to become resilient either. So what we want to be doing in coaching is developing a personalised program and action plan. I don't like to use the term goals very much in coaching. So I would say like that, help them think about where they want to be, what the aspiration is, and it has to be their aspiration. It can't be yours. And this is where it can be very challenging, especially if you're under pressure and attendance targets to get them in for a certain amount of time, and you're kind of forcing that agenda. Well, they'll pick up on that, and it will actually create more resistance, because it's the covert contract between you and them, like underneath the communication they'll feel the pressure. And if they're so sensitive to that kind of pressure and stress, you really have to put all that to one side and be able to park it, to be present and meet the needs of the young person in front of you. And that can be hard and challenging, and you kind of have to take a teacher hat off if your role's teaching or teaching assistant or pastoral support. Park that and become the coach in the moment, and be really present and empathetic with the child or the young person. So the idea is you help them identify what the psychological barriers are to engage in school. You help them to develop their ability to find the things that they do, like using a solution focused approach. So a solution focused approach, we want to identify the things that work more and do more of them. So is there one day a week that you have one lesson that you like? Or what we've had before is people that have done our Wellbeing Ambassadors program, they've noticed that young people who kind of not at school a lot might come in on the day where they get to have a one-to-one with a Wellbeing Ambassador. If you're interested in Wellbeing Ambassadors, I'll link up below, up above, I mean, not below, up above the video about Wellbeing Ambassadors, or you can search the playlist for that, which is it's peer-to-peer coaching light, basically. So helping them identify when school is not so bad, what's happening, what are you doing, how can you do more of that. Also, what are the things, what could school give you? What are the motivating factors that help you? Well, I get to spend time with my friends. On Tuesdays, there's sausages and I like them. It can be anything. I quite like art and I kind of miss doing that. Whatever, doesn't matter what the thing is, it's their thing. You're not deciding what their thing is. They are telling you what the things are that are going to help them move back to school and the ways they need to be helped. And that is baby steps, because what you've got to do when you're working with these young people with emotionally based school avoidance is sit with them in the discomfort so they can ride it out, and it can get desensitized, and that can be massively challenging and uncomfortable for us. So that's why we have to work on looking after our well-being, and why staff well-being is so important, and a whole school culture of well-being is so important, to just get the environment right for this kind of intervention to work effectively. So everything I'm saying to you is about helping the individual change, but without the environment and the system around the individual that enables that facilitates that intervention to be effective, you're only doing part of the process. So I have got another video on supporting EBSA in a whole school approach. So make sure you also watch that in conjunction with this one. But what we need is a culture and ethos of well-being that supports resilience and supports empathy and compassion and trust and things like that, psychological safety, and then work on those with those individuals on in a targeted way, so that they are understanding and addressing their own barriers to accessing school, and you're helping them lower their own barriers. And if the barriers are tangible, practical things, obvious, that you can easily fix, obviously do those things, but you don't know what they are until you ask the young person and hear what they have to say. I've got a case study video that's going to be coming up about how one young person was actually scared they were going to be sick. And I've encountered a young person before that had this fear of being sick, because once they were sick because they had some KFC and it made them choke and they threw up, and it was at a party. It was so embarrassing, they nearly died. So and then they got this kind of choking thing, so they were just really fearful of being sick, so they started to like not go into school because they didn't want to have food at school, and it just kind of spiraled. Like, you wouldn't expect that to be the thing, but we assume, don't we, and we don't ask. So coaching really creates that framework to really understand like what's going on for the young person, but it also equips you as the practitioner to feel a lot more confident, to have a whole toolkit of resources and skills and strategies to draw upon, and a process to go through to move them forward with these small tangible action steps that they can take. And also the importance of praise and recognition, celebrating success. And does that motivate them? Do they like that, or is it a bit too much because they're not used to it? How you want to design the nature of your relationship together with them, all of those kind of things. So if you're interested in coaching and finding out more, have a look at the blog article about coaching for EBSA. Also, check out my free course, Introduction to Coaching Young People. And I also can train you to be a coach, to integrate coaching as a intervention within your school, or in, you know, as a person who wants to work in school supporting young people who are struggling. So all the links are down below. If you like this video, subscribe. Also watch the other video about a whole school approach. This only works when you do it in conjunction with a whole school approach, because the individual operates within the system, and if you only change the individual, the change is only going to go so far and it's going to have a ceiling. We can't be blaming young people for this when we are creating toxic environments that they hate. We have to look at the environment that they exist within, but we also have to equip them with strategies to be able to navigate those systems. And I really wholeheartedly believe that coaching is that way, and it's a short-term intervention for a period of time that creates independence, and then don't become dependent on you. Therefore it's reducing workload. Obviously it's a massive thing that schools need to be improving attendance, and if kids are not in school, it is going to impact on their mental health. Young people need high connectedness with school and high connectedness with the peer group to protect against the onset of mental health problems, and that's what I'm here for. So if you're interested in finding out more, check out the links below, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again soon.